Welcome to an overall view. I'm the host of the show, Josephine Russo Leonard, and my special guest today is Pauline Leslie. Hi, Pauline.
Hi, Josephine. How are you doing today?
Great. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that in the Lynn item, Barbara Clayton wrote, looking to return Bible to family. While attempting to clean out St. Albans, a beautiful Bible inscribed with "In memory of the grandchildren of Caroline Grucci" has been found. This seems like something to be passed along. We have learned that two of the grandchildren are Russell and Patricia Goodwin. We are wondering if anyone in the area knows either of these people or anyone connected with Melville or Carolyn Grucci. I can be contacted at 781-592-6059. Barbara Clayton, former senior warden of St. Albans. Also, I would like to mention a neighbor who's been in business for 20 years and then some. He owns C&C Lobster, and right around the corner, Something Sweet, featuring Winfrey's Fudge and Chocolates, homemade cookies, candy, Richardson's Ice Cream, coming March 20th. And that's at 297 Lynn Street in Peabody. 978-530-1400. And the open house is March 20th, and I believe they're giving out free ice cream. So come on by, Pauline.
Definitely.
Now I would like Pauline Leslie, who is an author, who wrote a book, to tell us why she wrote the book and how she is continuing on this quest of healing.
Well, I initially wrote the book, Healing and Open Wound, but the scars are still left to mourn, when I was in North Shore Community College. What prompted me to write the book was initially I had written it as a diary. And what prompted me was my daughter's father was murdered on Valentine's Day when he was 16 and a half years old. And it was right in front of the Lynn Classical School during broad daylight at 12 o'clock. And back then, I couldn't cope with life. I was very depressed because of the abuse, violence, and neglect I was subjected to throughout my childhood. Back then, when I was in Jamaica, obviously that's where I was born, I lived in 5 foster homes. The first foster home was considered a group home where kids are there and await adoption. I was first transferred into a foster home where that foster mother, or apparently to me, if I could recall, at the age of 3, 4 years old, she might have been a prostitute because she would dress up at nights into excessive makeup and tight clothing, and she went out and she never came back, and they said that she was murdered and she was raped. So I was taken out of that home, brought back to the group home, and I went into another foster home, and at that time I was about 4 years old, and I had a foster sister that died. It's the irony.
A lot of tragedy.
Very much. The irony is, I was supposed to have gone with her to church that day. She was about 10 years old. I was about 4, and I took 6, so I didn't go with her to church. So she went by herself. So she was supposed to be home, I think, around 1 o'clock. She never returned home. So my foster mom panicked and called the police, and around 5 o'clock they found her body. She was murdered and raped.
Terrible.
And she didn't want to take care of me after that tragedy, so I went back to the group home. And obviously I was very malnourished. I wasn't taken care of properly, so a foster mom, which I still love so dearly today, her name is Mrs. Blake, she took care of me from the age of 4 till 9 until I located here to the United States. And when I first came here, I stayed with my grandmother from the age of 9 through 17. And my mom, at one point when I was about 9, 10 years old, had moved into my grandmother's home to stay there temporarily because she had had issues with her kid's father, so she had nowhere else to go. So she came over to my grandmother and she stayed in my room, where I was subjected to abuse and neglect behind closed doors. She would beat me in the head with these pointed shoe heels, like, for no reason at all. And I didn't understand why she would do that. And she would tell other people that I wasn't her kid. This is not my child. And she would beat me with plastic plants. I remember her chasing me around this car with a stick for no reason. But
Would you say your mother was mentally ill?
I always thought she was schizophrenic or bipolar or something, because
Yes.
I remember one day
Her behavior was not normal.
no, it wasn't, because I remember
No.
one day she told me she saw a little leprechaun on the
No.
stairs, and it looked at her and laughed, and she chased after the leprechaun.
Oh, God.
So I used to think something was wrong with her, but whenever she's with my other siblings, who obviously I'm the oldest, she had me when she was 15, and when she came here, she had the other 6 children. I noticed she treated them like they were angels, but she treated me like an outsider, like an outcast. And, you know, since I've been through so much in life, I didn't allow her to keep me from succeeding in life, even though it hurted that your own mother would treat you that way, and you wanted that comfort, being the fact that I was in all those foster homes, and you're here with your biological mother, and she treated you like garbage. It kind of gives you a resentment,
Right.
you know. But, you know, I didn't allow that part of my life to get to me. It was not until when I met my daughter's father at the age of 16, and I got pregnant when I was 17, and we moved to Lynn. And honestly, I really didn't like Lynn because I was coming from Waltham, where it was more upscale. And when I came to Lynn, I was like, wow, what a city. You know, it was very different from the Pine Hill Circle in Waltham, which was more upscale class. And I don't know if it's the area of Lynn where I lived, which was right near the square. I remember almost falling into one of the potholes.
Oh, wow.
in Lynn. And you know,
How long have you been in Lynn now?
I've been in Lynn for, it's going to be 17 years this July. I'll be in Lynn for 17 years this July.
And have you seen growth and...
Of course. I realized that the notion I had about Lynn is not what I had in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because when you first come here, you have your first idea of a city.
Yeah.
But then once you live there and you can learn to separate yourself from the negativity in Lynn and associate yourself with positive environment like St. Stephen's. I go to St. Stephen's Church, obviously, and that's where I know you.
Yes. We both worship at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, 74 South Common Street.
Yeah, it's a lovely church.
Yes, it is.
And I remember when my daughter's father was murdered on Valentine's Day 16 years ago, I just remember being lost, confused. I didn't understand why these things were happening to me in life. And I remember having this counselor, her name was Susie Bruce, and she would counsel me. And I remember when my daughter's father first died, she said to me, Pauline, explain to me what happened. And I couldn't talk to her for like 2 months. Every time when I attempted to say his name, I would crack up and cry. And you know, after 3 months, I was able to talk about what happened to me in life, because here I was with my 3-month-old daughter, and he's dead, and I had no one to help me. I was struggling on my own, and Susie Bruce came along, and she says, why don't you write a diary about yourself, or write a book or something? She says, because it's obviously you have a lot of pain and hurt, and you need to express yourself. So she says, why don't you start writing how you feel, and that way you can relieve all that stress off your shoulders and put it on a piece of paper. So I took her idea, and I said, you know what, I'm going to start to write a diary. And yes, this book that I've written was originally a diary. And then I had it edited by a friend, and then I decided, you know what, let me publish this book. I want to tell people my story, because there's a lot of people out there who are going through